time. Good night, good night. Welcome to Mindful Live number 37. I believe we are on Mindful Live 37. It is the 11th of February, Friday, the 11th of February, the last Mindful Live for, yes, the Gini coefficient eat salads. The last Mindful Live for this week. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for being here. Make sure to hit that like button regardless of where you are. If you're over on Instagram, hit that like button. There's a like button somewhere around there. If you are over on TikTok, double tap that screen and get the likes in. If you are watching over on YouTube, click that like button and make sure to drop a comment if you have something to say over there too. And for those of you in the live chats, if you miss anything, if you ever miss anything and you'd like to catch up, go over to YouTube, subscribe to my channel, Nathan Spring, over on YouTube, and you can catch most of the lives there, get a recap of anything you missed if you're so inclined to do so. All right, so what we are talking about tonight, we're starting off with the topic I did the contemplation about today. Our former Prime Minister, who obviously has intentions, has dreams, has fantasies. I'd phrase that better as fantasies. Let's call that fantasies because I don't really see our former Prime Minister getting back into that post. She won that faithful election back in 2010, and since then, it's been a domino of lost elections. So as for the political landscape, I don't see her getting back in. And then if she continues making some of the utterances that she does make so regularly, then I even more do not see it. But she doubled down, and we spoke about this last night. She doubled down on her statement calling the Coast Guard officers murderers. She doubled down and said that this was not a one-off accident and called to obscure incidents that didn't really have anything to do directly with the Coast Guard, and even if it had to do with the Coast Guard, didn't show the Coast Guard in a bad light. The two other incidences that she pointed to was the deportation of some children, which is what generally happens to illegal migrants anywhere in the world. So I'm not sure what that is supposed to show as being so cruel, and it's not the Coast Guard who made that decision. They're just following their orders according to the laws of the country. So I'm not too sure how that is to portray the Coast Guard as murderous. And then the other example that she brought up was when the very sad case of the migrant vessel that capsized, that overturned over out in the Gulf, and numerous migrants attempting to get to Trinidad on that vessel unfortunately drowned and died. But that again was not the Coast Guard's fault. It's a risky journey. They know it's risky, and they make that choice to go on that risky journey. So none of the examples that our former Prime Minister used actually highlighted the Coast Guard as being any kind of murderous organization. So I am not sure where she was getting at with that. But today I saw the Prime Minister had a reply to this. And he pointed to a study. So you know me, if there's a study, I must go find this study. It's a report. He pointed to a report out of Venezuela that highlighted their human trafficking problem and highlighted Trinidad as being a hotspot for that human trafficking problem. And even furthermore, highlighted Chaguanas as being a hotspot for that. All right, let's get into that article and see what their study said. This is coming from InsightCrime.org. Venezuela's other plight: sex trafficking in Trinidad and Tobago. This is from the 11th of February 2021. So it's about a year old. Wait, it's exactly a year old. Wow. What a coincidence, eh? All right. Ongoing interceptions targeting sex trafficking rings operating between Venezuela and Trinidad and Tobago have revealed the extent to which Venezuelan women and minors are being continually smuggled to the island nation from critical hubs, along with the grave conditions they face both in transit and upon arrival. Last month, authorities in Venezuela made their latest attempt to target trafficking networks working between the nation and its island neighbor, disbanding a ring dedicated to sending victims to Trinidad and Tobago, where they would be sexually exploited, Attorney General Tarek William Saab announced. So, there are rings in Venezuela, entire human trafficking rings, specialized in trafficking to Trinidad and Tobago. Just by the way, to dismantle the illicit organization, authorities made a spate of arrests in the municipality of Tucupita, located in Venezuela's northeastern coastal state of Delta Amacuro. Suspects were also detained further afield in the northwestern state of Lara, as well as in coastal La Guaira. Days later, on January 31st, the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian reported that the island nation's police commissioner, Gary Griffith, had announced corrupt officials suspected of being involved in the trade were under watch. So there was some coordination that seemed to have gone on there. But to me, I don't recall seeing any of the arrests of these officials that were supposedly under watch at some point in time. I don't see, somebody could put me onto it if there was some big raid and arrest where they got all of them, but I didn't see any of the high-level officials. Now, I saw some arrests being made in human trafficking in Trinidad and Tobago. It happens sometimes, but I don't think I saw any high-ranking officials. So yes, it's starting over in Venezuela, and it starts with the recruitment process. Stage 1, recruitment. Approximately 5 million refugees and migrants have left Venezuela as a result of the country's prolonged state of political and economic unrest, triggering the largest external displacement crisis in Latin America's recent history. But many have stayed in the nation, increasingly vulnerable to being recruited or even kidnapped by human traffickers. Research from Venezuelan Violence Observatory has suggested populations in border states face greater risks of being trafficked. This is clear in the northern state, etc., etc., etc. Now, they have a wonderful map here. They have a wonderful map. If you're over on YouTube, you would be able to see this map. The map shows the general directions, how the human trafficking takes place in between Venezuela and Trinidad. They have the arrows showing you the land routes. They have the arrows showing you the maritime routes. They show you where the boats generally take off from. They show you where the boats land. And one thing more they show you is that Chaguanas is glowing purple in the map. Chaguanas has a purple dot combined with a purple kind of glow around it. Just to describe it for those of you who would not be over on YouTube. Chaguanas is glowing purple. And you might wonder, why is Chaguanas that color? What is so special about Chaguanas that makes Chaguanas glow that strange purple color on this map? Well, the map happens to have a legend that describes exactly what's the problem with Chaguanas. You see, there are two things combined in Chaguanas there: exploitation zones and exploitation hotspot. Chaguanas is both an exploitation zone and an exploitation hotspot. Now, part of the importance of this, and I'm not going to pull up these articles, these are some old articles. You can feel free to go into the research of them if you so wish. Part of the importance of this, why Dr. Rowley would bring that up and point it so pointedly at the opposition leader when she's talking about border insecurities, is because, for one, the UNC has a stronghold in the central region. So they should have some say, they should have some, at least some explaining about why these things would be focused in this region. And the Couva North MP, back in 2020, raised that very same problem. she highlighted the fact that in her district, in her, as an MP in her constituency, there were numerous brothels that it seemed like she was unable to close. She said this publicly, that it seemed like she was unable to close these brothels. She is the member of parliament for this region. These brothels are supposedly illegal. She wants them closed. She's trying to get them closed, and they aren't being closed. And then the article saying where she highlighted those brothels, that was, let's say, early June. By mid-June, she was dropped. No more MP for Couva North. For the next election, they went another direction. Now, that could all be a coincidence. It could have been that Miss Prasad Bisesa always had plans to change the MP in that region. But it's very strange, because if you read the articles around that time, almost all the party groups in that Couva North constituency and the party executive in the Couva North constituency all wanted back that former MP. She was, as far as the party loyalists go in the Couva North constituency, she was well liked. And Couva North is a safe seat, so it's not like there was a risk of it being lost. And if she's well liked, then why change her? If everyone in the constituency chose her, then why change her? Even within the UNC, there was a rift when she was changed, because people within the constituency were asking, well, what is the point of having this whole structure if either way you're just going to disregard who we want to be chosen to go up anyway? If when you do that, either way you're going to disregard it, then what's the point of it? There was a rift within the UNC over not selecting her again. But she still was left out in the cold. And a new candidate went up for Couva North, and of course that candidate won because it's Couva North. But that candidate has a track record that trails behind him. A track record that involves suggestions and rumors. Now, these things may be unsubstantiated. Who knows if they are true? But they were in the public realm. I'm not saying something that is only rumored among secret backroom places. It made it to the papers in articles. There were rumors that he had links to that very same trade. Now, you could understand how strange and how weird it could seem that one person questioning about this same trade is replaced by someone who are rumored to be linked to that same trade. Now, bear in mind, these rumors may all be untrue, but nonetheless, the rumors are circulating there. It's very strange to take someone who is rumored about this, and you're removing a woman who is complaining about this human trafficking issue and putting a man who is rumored inside. You understand that does not look good. And then to be that person, because that was not done. Even the man who has the rumors circulating about him, the MP, he did not choose himself to be the MP there. He was chosen by the leader. So the problem of switching out the person who had a problem with brothels could be pointed at the leader. The very same leader who would now stand from a podium and call our Coast Guard murderers because they are trying to deter people who are being encouraged to come here to go into the central Shogunas district. Well, not to go, to be carried there to work. Does that make sense to you? Because it doesn't to me. I could tell you that. It does not make sense to me. That doesn't add up. And sometimes you wonder how purposeful some things are. It really makes you wonder sometimes. And with that very same case, now, there are two articles that I have further on with that case. That there are 1-2 article, and we'd see exactly why there are 1-2 article. With that very same case of, unfortunate case of the baby being shot, we are now seeing some legal action from it. Hines faces lawsuit over baby's killing. Sorry. Info wanted on Coast Guard probe permits for migrants to stay. So the migrants came here, and within short time they got themselves some legal representation. You see, our legal system works. They can get some legal representation really quickly. National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines has been issued a pre-action protocol letter requesting information on the probe into the Coast Guard killing of a migrant baby, as well as permits for the boatload of migrants to stay in Trinidad. So the entire boatload is saying, well, you shot the baby on the boat with us. We are traumatized. You must leave us here. The letter also said that Venezuelans detained at the heliport in Chaguaramas are subjected to psychological manipulation and threats, and requested that they be transferred and the children be released. Okay, what kind of a request is that? Illegal immigrant children that enter with, I would suppose, no documentation on them. You're saying that we're supposed to take the adults, carry them somewhere else because they can't take it there, and release immigrant minors, many of whom may not speak the native language of Trinidad. We're just supposed to release them. What manner of insanity are you speaking? That is insane. There are 16 adults and 18 children at the heliport. The letter issued by Kristen J. Williams' law firm requested that the minister acknowledge receipt of the correspondence within 24 hours and provide a substantive response. Failure to do so will result in legal proceedings. And they also pointed out inside of all of this that these people, these migrants, are also witnesses to this case. They are witnesses to give the other side of the story. So as they said, the threat was that they must respond in 24 hours to these demands. But then the next article to this, government deports 35 migrants back to Venezuela. A day after attorneys sent a letter requesting permission for the boatload of migrants involved in a shooting incident with the Coast Guard on the weekend in which a baby was shot dead to stay in TNT, pending the outcome of the investigation, 35 of the 39 migrants found on board have been sent back to Venezuela. It's more than time this sordid trade is stopped. Let the chips fall where they may. I would love if this could stop. It's difficult to stop because there's money involved. And once there's money involved, things get complicated really quickly. Really quickly. So, yeah, the government's response to their pre-action protocol letter. Good night, Mad Dog Malik. The government's response to their pre-action protocol letter, where they threatened a lawsuit, well, they left this place right here. They left somewhere down here. Yeah. They went. They were deported. 35 of the 39 migrants found on board have been sent back to Venezuela. So I guess the pre-action protocol letter would have to be post-action because the action has already been taken and they're on their way back. They are on their way back. Am I really that late, bro? Yeah, user with plenty other stuff. You are a bit late there. You are a bit late. Illegal immigrants need a clear message not to come here illegally. You see, that's it. Immigration is a very difficult problem to solve. That is the reality of it. Well, maybe not that difficult, but if you're trying to be a good person, immigration is a difficult problem to solve. Because as a good person, if you have extra resources, you could see it within your heart to say, okay, we would allow some people, especially if they're in dire circumstances, all right, some people, let's help some people. But there must be a limit somewhere. And if you're talking about people in need in the world, there would always be more people in need in the world than you have resources that could meet those needs. There are more people starving than you could feed. There are more poor people than you could give to. That is the reality. Wow. Wendy Medium XL says she cares not for anybody's sad story. They could cry her a river. And you see, that's some of the problems that comes with the friction created. When the friction is created within the native population, and there's the friction then passed on between the native population and the immigrant population, you tend to get those problems happening. And in Trinidad and Tobago, I think the relations between the native population and the Venezuelan population in certain circumstances are a bit strained, especially when you see some things like this where you have illegally entered my country and then you are trying to get a legal letter that says we must be forced to keep you here. That's kind of strange. It is kind of strange. Jason Mohammed says, people from South will tell you this has been going on for decades, yet we have no policy. I know. Venezuelans have been coming here for a very long time now, and the policy isn't being created for it. I know, I can see that. But how do you solve that problem? And if you're trying to be charitable while solving the problem, how do you solve that problem? If you see all of these boats coming, how do you get them all back? How do you turn them all back? Do we have enough Coast Guard to patrol all of these waters to make sure that they do not enter? They believe Trinidad owe them something. What about the zoo? I'm not sure what that means. Bilingual ATMs in South. I like it. More languages, it enriches our country. Do they acquire animals legitimately? Well, I am totally stumped by that question, to be very honest, because I saw you ask it over on YouTube, actually. I did see that. I was just looking at that, but I wasn't sure what you meant. I would guess so. I would hope so, but I never really looked deeply into how the zoo acquires all of their animals. And that's kind of the original idea, Jason Mohammed. That was the idea. Okay, we allow some permits, we allow some to be registered, and once you're registered, you can get to work, you get inside of the system, and great, we can keep track of how many are here. But then the problem is there are still more coming in. Okay, we have registered a stipulated amount now. What are we going to do about the more coming in? How are you going to get them to stop? And if people are willing to risk their lives, because they are risking their lives every time they take that journey, if they are willing to risk their lives and do dangerous things out on the sea, the harder you try to stop them, the more risky things they might do, and the more incidents we may have just like this. And you really do not want to have multiple incidents like this occurring. Not quick, close to each other. That's not something you want. And the reason you could understand the reason. These people, they're technically criminals because they broke our law, but they aren't criminals in the typical sense. They're trying to get a better place to live. As far as they see, there's no hope for them left back there. Humans have done this since time immemorial. When things get bad here, humans migrate. It's a common human tendency. So I understand it from their perspective, but I understand it more from our perspective and understand that it is impossible for us to take everyone in. It's just how exactly would it be done? Our entire population is just a subset of Venezuela. We couldn't possibly help everyone. Of course not. User says, okay, but the Venezuelans need to bring addition to our economy, and they are. Some are. In fact, many are. There are many migrant workers right now that are working harder than many local workers and being paid less for it. And by doing that, they are putting more profits in the pockets of some local businessmen. Anyone in the hiring field that has some hiring to do within the last 5 years would have knowledge of this, would have clear knowledge of this. One person asks, why don't they go further? South America, go Colombia, Argentina, or something. Many have. That's the thing. Many have. And some that have left Trinidad recently, there's been a recent article pointing out some Venezuelans who have left Trinidad's borders and in plans to return to Venezuela. And some of them are saying that their plan is to return to Venezuela and then go to another South American country where they would be more welcomed and their language is familiar, etc., etc., etc. But what you have to bear in mind is Trinidad is a paradise. Trinidad is a wonderful place. Trinidad is more wealthy than you might imagine. Many people in Trinidad don't have good perspective of how economically good we, generally speaking, have it over here. The ease of making money. That you could, as a young, strong man in Trinidad, you could walk onto the land, look around, look for a construction site. You barely know English. Walk up to the construction site and say, hey, boss man, you got work? And within a day, you could be making $250 a day. That is not everywhere in the world. That does not happen any and everywhere in the world. Up until the pandemic, for many of the ladies, once you're a Venezuelan woman under 35 and within a certain look bracket, you could walk into any bar, any club, any service-oriented anything and ask for a job, and you're making a couple hundred a day also. So the ease of the market here is impressive. And for many people in Trinidad, a lot of those jobs, they think those jobs don't exist because they don't want those jobs. They don't see the jobs because they don't want the jobs. But for people who are desperate, they're seeing, wow, there are lots of jobs to just grab up in the dregs all around the corners. This is Trinsuela, not Trinidad and Tobago. But yes, so that's why they came to Trinidad. Trinidad has more opportunities in a certain sense. So you could understand why they would choose here. All right. Something to just keep a note of, though, that I looked at just on the COVID news. I'm not staying long on this, but very interestingly, I'm prefacing this with it seems. Guyana is only now getting better. They aren't going to go to Guyana. It seems like the Omicron is doing what is to be expected from the Omicron, because we're closing in on 1,000 cases today and the deaths still remain relatively low. I think it was 6 today. Yes, 6 deaths today with nearly 1,000 infections. So it seems like obviously the infections are still pretty high. However, the death rate is obviously not as high as it once was. All right. Well, in the chat, how many of you saw the prices for the pods, the prices for the little boxing rings? How many of you saw the prices of the boxing rings for the taste? For just the taste, just the taste. How many of you saw the price for them? What you all think about the price? The price was 1,200, was it 12 or 1,500 for 6 people working out, I think $250 a person, and then 2,100 for 9 people, working out to somewhere around 230 per person. That's, I suppose, around the regular price. That's the next thing. I was wondering about that. You know Trinidadians, Trinidadians know scheme. If it's one thing Trinis know is scheme. So people are going to buy up those boxing rings. People are going to buy up their 6-person boxing ring. And buy up all the 1,500 boxing rings. And then tell you, well, there aren't any more left. But I will sell you mine. I will sell you my boxing ring. But, you can't get it for 1,500 anymore. It's going for 3,000 now, So, take it or leave it. And then to make this whole thing, adding more into the general corruption trends down here, this is a government-controlled business by and large. So, we could have government friendship allowing you early access to quite a few pods. Next thing, about 75% of the pods are already gone. At least they are already earmarked to be gone. So there are only 25% out there on the open market. And when the thing drop, when the thing drop for sale and there aren't any more going there, supply and demand start to do their thing. Playing into the social ladder climbing status mongering culture of Trinbagonians. That's pretty true, actually. That's pretty true. And I could tell you, it because I think different ones of the events have different prices for their pens, for their boxing rings. So here's what very likely would happen. That same kind of status business could have someone knowing that, okay, let's say this particular event would attract a certain crowd. Well, we'd buy up all the pods, and we know this crowd would like the idea that everyone inside here paid $10,000 for a pod. We aren't here on $1,500 pods. No, this is a $10,000 per pod crew. You understand where we at here? So I that wouldn't be surprising, but maybe they may have some kind of legal something they would try for that. But the scalpers and scammers almost always find a way around all of those things. There's always a way for the scammer and scampers and scalpers. I done see people talking about going voice event in some pods or something so. And is that a problem, J. Chris? You're getting your own little boxing ring, Wendy Medium XL. For that price, you get your boxing ring. And you can chill in your boxing ring. You know what would be a real big shot move though? Good evening, Savage Wolf. Good evening, all good morning to the host. I don't get it. What would be a real big shot move? You go out there, buy a 9-person pod, and come in with just you and one other. You and one other in your 9-person pod. Just for doing its sake. Yeah, your pod is VVIP. Your pod would be VVIP, Just two of you all alone inside there. But it might get boring after a while. I'm pretty sure it would get boring. All right. I have one more story for the night. Hex and Pie. You like that kind of stuff. Must be you, of course. Oh, Prince Vans. It's like VIP, no security needed, of course. And you get all the space you wanted. All of the space. But you might get bored too. The last story I'm doing tonight was from about 2 days ago, but I found it interesting. I pulled it up. I was supposed to do it a couple days, but I didn't get a chance. Now we're going to get into this. It's a story speaking about technology and the advancement in technology as pertaining to the Caribbean. This is not something you see very regularly. The metaverse in the Caribbean. What is it and why it's important. Hi, Mona Kamona. Hi, Mona Kamona. Yes, the metaverse in the Caribbean. On January 31st, the government of Barbados and the Caribbean Telecommunications Union presented a webinar titled Traversing the Metaverse, a Caribbean Perspective. The Barbados government previously announced in November last year that it would be establishing a virtual embassy. Barbados doing it big. Barbados up with the times apparently, signing an agreement with virtual world builder Decentraland. Barbados is also exploring strategic partnerships to create sovereign virtual real estate with other virtual world builders, including Somnium Space and Superworld. Rodney Taylor, Secretary General of CTU, introduced the first panel which discussed the current state of virtual play, noting the importance of leadership and adoption by Caribbean governments in rapidly emerging technologies. Government policy is critical, Taylor said, but it is not the only ingredient. There must also be a corresponding demand by citizens, of course, and significant private sector capacity to innovate and provide technological solutions in the local economy. So what he's basically saying there is that yes, we need the government policies and etc., but what we need probably even more is from the actual citizens. You need that interest sparked. You need to know the citizens are interested in doing this. And from the citizens' interest, the demand from the citizens could lead into that significant private sector to innovate more and provide the solutions that are needed. The more demand you get from the citizens, then you'd get more of that innovation from the private sector, very likely. Now, there are alternative options to this entire metaverse idea. It isn't just one way, and it isn't just one way. There are alternative plans that they have, that alternative avenues that they are going down. The discussion he led with Hrish Lutlikan, founder and CEO of Superworld, and Borge Sebastian, COO of Sandbox Metaverse, sought to do exactly that, understanding how they use these things. The approaches taken by Superworld and Sandbox to virtual reality differ in interesting ways. Sandbox is building a virtual world with avatars, the same principle that is used in modern massive multiplayer role-player games, those MMORPGs, but with its own blockchain secured token-based currency. So it's basically a massive multiplayer online game, but you also have a crypto token inside of that. Yes, that's exactly what it reminded me of J-Chris, a throwback kind of to IMVU, but with much more possibilities, because you would be able to use real currencies that cannot be stolen and cheated and changed inside of there. So you could do real commerce inside of this virtual world. Superworld is leaning in on augmented reality and virtual reality to create a world that's layered on top of the meta world that we live in. The metaverse is a combination of your life online and offline, Lutlikan said. It encompasses virtual worlds and platforms. Essentially, it is a persistent interface that enables you to do anything that you love and enhances life, your work, your play, literally every aspect of your life. Superworld is a virtual world mapped on top of the real world. Everything in Superworld is around us. Superworld sells 100 meters square plots of virtual real estate for 0.1 of an Ethereum token, roughly around $300 US. And it isn't some remote concept. No, they're selling, yes, basically interesting. Basically what you said there is it. They're trying to stick the world in a game. in a sort of way. Their idea is to overlay on top of the real world, kind of like Pokemon Go did in a sense. It's like on top of the real world as you go around, there's this virtual world. And this virtual world you can buy property, you can buy real estate inside of it and own pieces of it. Hello to you too, Ria. Yes, augmented reality. The Burj Khalifa in the UAE is currently available for resale at 50 Ethereum, and 9 plots have already been purchased in Trinidad. Imagine that. Imagine that. 9 plots have already been purchased in Trinidad. Superworld user at Drone owns half of the Hazley Crawford Stadium but hasn't marked up his purchase for resale yet. Somebody already owns half of the Hazley Crawford Stadium. So you see, these things could actually help to create value where the normal world cannot create it anymore. You could literally sell everything over twice. But the problem just as was said further up, the problem there is getting enough people to use it. So I could buy up the entirety of Trinidad on Superworld. If no one else cares to use Superworld, I will own the entirety of this Superworld Trinidad, and it's only me that would know about this. Have you seen the movie Ready Player One? I think I have. Yes, I have actually. It's only me would know about it. No one else would even know that I own all of Trinidad. So the thing is, at the same time with creating the technology, is making it that people want to come on to this technology. Would Mindful Live go in virtual reality? We will buy the Jersey map planch. I don't mind, I don't mind. But I wouldn't want to spend very long there. It would be like if you ever listen to Ernie singing about wanting to go on the moon, but you don't really want to live there. Yeah, that would be me and that whole metaverse business. Borge Sebastian, Chief Operating Officer of Sandbox Metaverse, explained that his company's approach was about being able to access new types of experiences that are more immersive through a series of digital parallel universes through an avatar, a 3D representation of yourself that you can carry across all those multiple worlds. The company, launched in 2011, has created several partnerships that now exist in the Sandbox Metaverse with businesses as diverse as the South China Morning Post. Now, to any of you who read news, I read news daily, obviously. I read news from multiple sources. If you are familiar with news sources, the South China Morning Post is a newspaper, an outfit, owned and run, basically, by the Chinese Communist Party. So, I just saying, Sandbox, the fact that South China Morning Post was kind of first up there gives a little red flag vibe. The little tiny red flags start to wave a little bit there. But yes, with businesses as diverse as South China Morning Post, Snoop Dogg, and The Walking Dead, in the Sandbox, Sebastian says your identity is actually yours. It can be moved across different applications, services, and worlds, which is not currently the case in many so-called metaverses. Those are essentially virtual worlds or video games, which are closed environments owned by one single entity who is operating it and not allowing their users to carry that digital identity, asset, or currency across the board. So his idea is the metaverse, but open. So his idea is much more true to the Sandbox idea. Hey, Richard Globman, you're a little late tonight, but his idea is literally Sandbox. Those of you who are gamers who play some games, you may be familiar with what they call a sandbox game, where you could basically go anywhere and do anything. So his idea is that you're in the metaverse. but you are not secluded to Facebook's metaverse. You could enter a metaverse that is a business place. You could go into a metaverse that is Snoop Dogg's own universe. Perhaps if Snoop Dogg partners with Sandbox, perhaps he can create his own universe and you could take your avatar and enter there. You could walk into the South China Morning Post and see all of the Chinese propaganda right on demand if you so want. You could probably walk into a virtual Walking Dead universe and live like you are there. So that's the idea of Sandbox. Regarding Facebook's rebrand to Meta and in an insistence on a refreshed commitment to building a metaverse, Sebastian found little in the announcements that convinced him of a real plan to build a persistent, open digital world. It is not enough, Sebastian said. The core of their business model, which is built around user data collection, does not push toward the free web and the user community and a less centralized approach. They left out everything that would have benefit to users. And I could dig what he's saying. I could understand what he's saying. He sounds like someone with that kind of old internet mentality, that 2000s internet, that anonymous internet kind of mentality, the message boards and forums internet kind of mentality, where their intention is for this thing to be open and free. They love the idea of information open and free. And he is saying that the general creation of how Facebook is making their meta is purposefully closed and centralized and controlled by Facebook, and he doesn't like that idea. The core of their business model, right? The Sandbox metaverse has its own internal currency, Sand. How convenient. Which is described as an ERC20 token, making it a peer equivalent with Ethereum and Bitcoin. So it's built basically on the Ethereum structure. ERC20. Sandbox users can also purchase land and create assets, accumulating value through engagement and creative input. So you could go and live your real life on the fake world, basically. And that's where the NFTs come in. All right. So what you all think? You're going to buy some real estate, some Trini virtual real estate out there. Would you be interested? Yes, Sandbox VR. That is what I'm talking about. Boy, them people very unrealistic. What about this thing what about if this thing get hacked? Bitcoins get hacked. So who is the metaverse? Bitcoins get hacked? Who hacks Bitcoin? When has Bitcoin been hacked? Thoughts on NFT games? That's what I'm asking, Diliwanka. I'm not sure Bitcoin has been hacked. Are you sure Bitcoin has been hacked? Because to hack Bitcoin, you'd have to be able to reverse engineer a semi-impossible algorithm and keep up doing it consistently. And then you'd have to know where the nodes are located. Well, you could steal Bitcoin. That's different from hacking Bitcoin. You could steal someone's wallet. That can happen. If you send some kind of phishing program through their email that takes certain information that they are unwise with, then yes, you could steal their wallet. But that's not hacking Bitcoin. That's a different thing. And the thing with Bitcoin wallets, you could actually take your Bitcoin wallet, off of the internet. And it would still be able to retain the knowledge of the value that it has, the information. So it's not really hackable in that sense. All right. Instagram decides to do its own thing as per usual. But either way, I am about finished over on YouTube and over on Instagram. Thank you for coming. I hope you're educated, informed, and entertained. And I'll see you again on Monday for the next Mindful Live at 9:30. So see you then. I'll be over on TikTok hanging out for a little while longer. If you'd like to come over there, you're welcome to do so. See you on Monday.